Alright, this is Silver Surfman 79. Let's not waste time, because that is what the writer, Ron Marz is doing. Let's quickly show that on our first 2 pages, we have a splash image here, showing a character's feet and cape. And then we have a double splash showing him fully. And the first 3 pages of this comic have been devoted to 2 images. All they have done, the only thing 3 pages of comic have managed to do, is show a single character. And it's not the artist's fault. It's not the decision to have 2 big pictures that is the problem. It's that the writer, Ron Marz, refuses to write. He half-arses everything. Whenever there's a splash page, that is an excuse to write less. You could have had narration during these 3 pages establishing the character, Mon-El from the Legion of Superheroes, or explaining what he is currently doing. But now we get absolute minimum, because Ron Marz is a lazy piece of shit that doesn't care. There is that 3-part Ace of Spades story, and that one was 1 issue's worth of story stretched across 3 issues. And this one follows the exact same percentages as that. This is a standalone single issue story, and it is at most a third of a script. We have a more conventional page here, and the scripting is still minimal. There is 0 character to any of it. It is exposition, and it's not even decent exposition because it doesn't give you an understanding. It simply gives you a reason for a character being somewhere. Mon-El is investigating something. That is the level of knowledge we are given. He is investigating something. And then he is attacked by an unseen foe. This is fucking shit. This scripting, it is garbage. There are comic strips with more writing than this. Comic strips. We cut to Silver Surfman having a snooze on an unnamed planet. Likely an unnamed planet because coming up with a name for a planet requires some fucking effort. We have another splash image, and he has internal monologue, which is mostly saying nothing. It looks like there's plenty of it, but it's just repeating things you already know about Silver Surfman. On this planet, he is attacked by Dr. Minerva. I will explain her shortly. But remember that other one I looked at? Exact same plotting. Silver Surfman was just sitting around, minding his own business, and then an action scene happened to him. Silver Surfman wanders into an action scene. There's no real reason for it, or for him to fight. He just happens upon involvement in an action scene. Here he was just minding his own business, and Dr. Minerva comes out of nowhere and starts fighting him. Dr. Minerva is a scientist from the Kree people. She was originally a villain for Captain Marbles, the real one, Marvel. She was introduced in issue 50 of his series. She was spying on him for a few issues, watching him on monitors on her spaceship while declaring ominous things. Then she kidnapped Dickie Jones to try and get his attention. She took the centre stage a few issues later, and she is meant to be seductive, which only the art really conveys a couple of times. She is a scientist, a geneticist, who wants to see the Kree people produce a perfect specimen. She wants to jumpstart evolution within the Kree people with a master race of perfect Kree. She has prepared her body for this, and the numbers say she and Captain Marbles, the real one, Marvel, would conceive the ultimate Kree baby together. She wants the hero to get her preggers. Like all my favourite villains, she basically wants the hero to shag her. It gets worse because they don't fuck, and then she gets brought into the War of Three Galaxies. Dr. Minerva is forgotten about. This page is the last time you see her in that story. She reappears again in the series a few issues later, apparently having been dropped off at the farm where Kree exiles are living under house arrest. But nothing comes of that, and she doesn't appear again until the 90s. I have imparted more information to you right there than this comic does anyway. She is clobbering on Silver Surfman, which, as the issue later notes, is the equivalent of doing nothing. It doesn't hurt him. He is too powerful to even be bothered by this. And then Dr. Minerva's partner, Captain Atlee, he joins the completely meaningless fight. Captain Atlee, he is Kree as well. He first appeared in Kazar, wherein he was working with Dr. Minerva, who hadn't appeared since she was on that farm. In Kazar 9, in disguise as humans, they hired AIM to try and steal Kazar's magic bracelets, the Kwanzaa bands. But when that didn't work, they just kidnapped Kazar themselves when he slept. They tried to cut his hands off. They tried to remove his hands because the Kwanzaa bands themselves cannot be removed. Kazar luckily escaped and fought them off, but in the end he saved them from certain death, and the hero and the villains came to an agreement, a truce, where he would let them go if they would stay away from Earth. Captain Atlee, there is a subtle character presented in those stories. He is a coward who is playing at being a warrior. We never get his backstory, but I always took it to be that he is the lone survivor of a battle in a Kree war, but he survived through cowardice. He was hiding in a trench or something, and he was accepted as a war hero, and now that is something that he plays at. There's a bit in the Kazar issue when they are about to cut off Kazar's hands where he gets squeamish and he leaves the room. He doesn't have the stomach for it. There's still some big history to share, the thing that came before this issue, but for the time being, we have some more big images of as little story as possible. Here, Terry Axe is attacked by an unseen foe. It is Korg. Korg is coming. Korg has come. Korg has came. double page spreads, all of this coming. That is it. Here is Silver Surfman fighting these Kree people. A fight that shouldn't even last 2 seconds. And you think that a writer who wants to avoid writing would realise that and lean into that more often. I'm certainly not saying that the art is bad. The opposite is the case. The art is carrying everything. You have got the world's least motivated writer paired with what might be the biggest undersung talent of the early 90s. Captain Atlee, he surrenders and begs Silver Surfman to kill him. He wants Silver Surfman to kill him and restore his honour in doing so. This issue is picking up from the ashes of Operation Galaxy Quest, the 19-part Avengers crossover from 1992. A masterpiece of sorts. Both our villains were featured in that. Kazar discovered the pair trying to rob the grave of Captain Marbles, the real one, Marvel. This time, they were trying to steal Captain Marbles' magic bracelets. The two were handed over to the Avengers as prisoners, and this was just as a war was breaking out between the Kree people and the Shi'ar Empire. There is an issue of Wonder Man. We get to see a lot of Captain Atlee in there. Should I review that one sometime soon? Eventually, escaping their imprisonment, Minerva and Atlee returned to their own planet, and they fought in the war as Star Force alongside other super champions for the Kree people. They battled the Avengers, and then the plot momentarily forgets about them for a few parts. They're kind of not relevant anymore. Genocide! A big fat genocide happens. A bomb is set off that exterminates most of the Kree people. Billions of the Kree are gone in the blink of an eye, with the survivors of the blast being those deemed genetically superior, and they are meant to be the bastions for the future of the Kree people. Those survivors include Captain Atlee and Dr. Minn-Erva. Captain Atlee is outraged at the Avengers, believing that they are the cause of this devastation to the Kree people. But then he discovered the truth, that it was always the plan of the Kree people's ruler to sacrifice most of their own race to ensure that they did not linger on as an evolutionary dead end. Dr. Minerva was even aware and endorsed this. A crestfallen Captain Atlee opted to kill himself, disgusted at his masters he had served and the actions which had been carried out in this war. He displays a little bit of honour in his final moments, choosing to die rather than live with this. He tells the heroes to avenge the deaths of the billions of lives lost. Minerva nonsensically leaps towards him. Maybe she was trying to stop him, or maybe she didn't want to live without him. Whatever the case is, they perished together. They didn't perish though. This issue, of the very little it does, it retcons that. We learn that Atlee was too much of a coward to kill himself, so he teleported away, and Minerva sensed that, and that is why she jumped to him. I was going to scoff at that, but it is in keeping with his character. He is a coward. If the idea was, at the last minute, he wussed out of killing himself, I am fine with that. But no, we retcon everything. He was never going to kill himself. He uses, as a weapon twice over now, suicide to get away with things. He was never outraged that much about the genocide. He used it as an excuse to cover his escape. He just pulls the suicide card when he needs to. He is the Boogie 2988 of the Kree. Fucking deplorable retconning. It takes what is, as much as the most characterization a villain got, and removes it, and makes it all into a pantomime. This is the most effort Ron Marsgirl puts into the issue, undoing something else, making the Avengers look like a bunch of chumps who bought into a performance piece by Captain Atlee. Atlee killing himself was a completed character arc. This undoes that and makes that scene as empty as Ron Marsgirl's scenes. The story of this issue is over now, but we still have more splashes and double-page spreads. Here is Beta Ray Cyrus across 2 pages. He is appearing here hot off the heels of his appearances in the dreadful Blood and Thunder story arc in Thor, of which Ron Marsgirl is also the main writer, and that is one of the worst stories of all time. You'll never guess what happens though. Beta Ray Cyrus, he is attacked by an unseen foe. So much plot and story being told in this one, isn't there? The next issue is a fight issue. The issue after that is a fight issue. The issue after that is a fight issue. They are all fight issues because Ron Marsgirl is a lazy, boring writer wasting the talents of a superb artist on stories that he was disgustingly being paid full price for writing. I never sit down with the intention of really bashing Ron Marsgirl, but every single time I read one of his comics, it ends up that way. He is a writer that has never delivered, but he has this great big myth of being alright. And even I think, oh, he's alright, whenever I'm not actually reading his comics. I give this 7 pages of script up, which is still probably more than he wrote.